On this channel, we've covered setting up your own cloud gaming server several times using Parsec, Moonlight, and even nice DCV. But so far, I've always shown you how to do this on Amazon Web Services or AWS. I've had several comments on my previous videos asking whether I can do the same thing on Azure or Google Cloud Platform. And so that's what we're going to do today. I'll be showing you how to set up your own cloud gaming server on Azure, whilst saving as much money as possible to make the server as economic as possible to run. So far, I've always used AWS as my cloud gaming platform of choice for two very simple reasons. First of all, AWS is what I know. It's what I use for personal projects, it's what I use at work. I'm an AWS certified architect and an Amazon authorized instructor. So I chose what I was comfortable with. But also, secondly, creating a cloud gaming server requires an instance with a powerful graphics card, of course. And until recently, the types of instances available on Azure that had these powerful graphics cards were limited to the US only, and I'm here in Europe. That amount of distance would have given me a very poor gaming experience due to latency. But times change. Azure now has expanded the number of regions in which it has powerful GPU instances. They're still not as close to me as the ones of AWS are, but that's a problem specific to me and perhaps not you. I'm going to be using the Western Europe region for this video, which is the closest to me that I could find that has the GPU instances. So we'll set up a gaming server on Azure, and thanks to a fantastic guide by Jimmy Xiao, we're also going to be reducing cost as much as possible. For very little extra work, we can make this very, very economical. Before we begin, though, I'll address the obvious elephant in the room. How much is this going to cost me? Well, again, with cloud infrastructure, it's always a challenge to estimate cost. It depends on a lot of things like your location, the resolution you're gaming at, the gaming instance type you choose, the amount of bandwidth that you're using, the alignment of Virgo with Mars. I mean, there are so many factors. However, if you game at 1080p for a maximum of 40 hours a month, I've estimated the cost will be around $65, as long as you follow all the techniques in this video. Now again, the cost will vary by region and depending on exactly what you do, so that's only an estimate. However, I have provided the link down in the video description to my pricing estimate generated from the Azure portal, so you can see whether that works for you. So, with that, let's begin. So here I am in the Azure portal. That's portal.azure.com. And what I'm going to do is start by clicking on virtual machines. And as you can see, I have nothing right now. So I'm going to click add, and I'm going to click virtual machine. Now you'll want to select your subscription here. You'll need to make sure you have a paid subscription to Azure, since some of the stuff we're doing here won't work on the free subscription. It's also a good idea to create a resource group so that everything you create that's related to this gaming server will be tagged with this group, so you can easily remove them if you need to later on, and so on. So I'm going to click create new, and I'm going to call it Tech Guru Video. Okay, so now we'll give our machine a name, Tech Guru Gaming Rig. Alright, and the names cannot contain spaces, so I'll just call it Tech Guru Gaming Rig. Okay, now we need to choose a region. Now the closest region to me that has the instance type I need is West Europe. So that's what I'm going to have to choose. Now for an image, you'll want to choose Windows 10 Pro version 20H2 or whatever the most recent version is when you're following this video. Now I'm going to choose here to get a spot instance. So what this does is it reduces the price considerably at the risk of getting kicked off your server when utilization is high on Azure. I still recommend you do this. We are now on the Azure pricing page. So as you can see, for the NV6 instance type, which is the type I'm going to use, The typical price for pay-as-you-go is 134, 135 euro per hour. But for spot instances, it is only 32 cents. So I'm going to set a maximum price of 40 cents, which is still 70-something% savings. And I won't be kicked off the server unless the utilization goes high enough to increase the price. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to choose price or capacity. And I need to enter the maximum price in US dollars. So I'm just going to say 50 cents. And I need to set my instance type. So what you need to do is you need to go to the N series and you need to choose NV6, which you can see here from the non-premium storage VM sizes group. I just searched NV here and found it. So we'll click select. And as you can see, that's going to cost me about 15 cents per hour, which is ridiculously low, but it can go up to 50 cents in my case. Now I'll set a username and password. So I'm going to set my username as TechGuru and I'm going to set a password here. And from here, make sure that RDP is allowed. Now later we'll need to change this to allow more ports for Moonlight, but for now RDP is enough. Now you need to tick this box to confirm your eligibility for a Windows 10 license. And now we can click next to go to disks. Now, since this is only going to store our operating system, we can save some money by switching to a standard HDD, that's a hard disk drive, and leave everything else as default. Do not add any data disks if you want to save money. Basically, I'm going to show you a way where we can store our game data on a temporary disk that comes with every Azure instance, so we can save a lot of money just by not having a disk here. You'll also want to untick use manage disks, and this will ask you to create a storage account. Okay, and as you can see, it suggested the name already, TechGuru Video Disks in my case, which is fine for me. Okay, and we'll click next to go to networking, and we can create a virtual network. Again, it's going to create it automatically. That's fine. Public IP. Let's see here. Public inbound ports, allow, blah, blah, blah. Okay, next. And now we get to the management tab. So I'm going to switch off everything here. Let's see. But I am going to enable auto shutdown. So this is good. So just in case when you're done gaming, you forget to shut down your machine, this will shut it down for you. Now I tend to play in the evening, so I'm going to set my time zone here, which is UTC +1. Now I typically play till at most midnight, so I'm going to set this to 1 a.m. So just in case my machine is still running at 1 in the morning, the instance will automatically be shut down by Azure. Okay, so there's my email address, which you'll need to fill in. We'll click next. Here we can add some extensions and custom data. Not really anything we need to change here. However, we do need to install an extension. Now, to be perfectly honest, this isn't strictly speaking required since we're going to reinstall the drivers anyway. However, since we're here, I'm going to click select an extension to install, and there should be an option to install the NVIDIA drivers, which is here, NVIDIA GPU driver extension. Okay, so we'll click create. This extension installs the NVIDIA drivers, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and that will be installed here. Next. Now we can add some tags. Okay, so I'm just going to create a tag project here, and I'm going to set it to TechGuru Gaming Rig. Of course, you can set this to whatever, but the nice thing is that everything related to this machine will be tagged. So again, it's much easier later to find what you've created, change it, delete it, or whatever. We are now in the Review and Create tab. Terms and conditions, just make sure that everything is okay. and everything seems to be okay in my case, so I'm going to click create. You can also download a template here, which is pretty cool, to automate this type of instance creation at a later stage. I'm just going to click create. Okay, deployment is in progress. So now what we need to do is be a bit patient and wait until everything is deployed. Okay, so as you can see now it says your deployment is complete. So I can now click go to resource. And as you can see, I have information about my virtual machine here. So there's a few things we need to change. So first go to networking. And here we need to open the ports which are required for Moonlight, or if you're using Parsec, whatever else you may be using. So I'm going to click add inbound port rule, and I'm going to call it any source, and this is what we want to change, the destination port ranges. Now if you actually go to Moonlight's setup guide, it will tell you exactly what ports you need to open, and here they are. So these ports are the TCP ports we need to open. So we'll simply go back here and we'll paste them here, choose the TCP protocol, make sure it's allow, and I'm going to give it the name Moonlight TCP. Add, and we'll now repeat this for the UDP ports. So again, I'll go here, copy the UDP ports, paste them here, choose UDP as the protocol, and I'm going to call them Moonlight UDP. Add. All right, the priority. Okay, so I guess 320 and add. Okay, so that should have opened the ports that we need. Okay, so another thing you'll want to do to make your life easier is to make the IP address of the machine static. Now clicking on it from here doesn't let you change anything. So what I typically do is go back to the overview from here, and then click on the public IP address from here and change the IP address assignment to static. Okay, now it says the machine may be rebooted, which is fine for us. So this will make sure that your machine always has the same IP address. So I'm going to click save here. Now, another thing we'll want to do is create a blob container. So as I explained earlier, the way this is going to work is we're going to have a storage area, and before we shut down our machine, we'll simply upload our games folder to the storage area, and whenever we start our machine again, we download it from there. Now this is very fast since this is Azure to Azure, so it's going to be a very, very quick transfer. So I'm going to go to home, and I'm going to click on storage accounts. And as you can see, there's my storage account that was created when I created the VM. So we'll go ahead and click that. And from here, you'll want to go to containers. Now there's already an existing container called VHDs. So this is where the operating system disk of the VM we've just created is stored. Now what we want to do is create a new one where we're going to store the games that we install. So to do this, we'll click the plus icon here and we'll give it a name. So I'm going to call it Tech Guru Rig Games. Set the access level to private, which is the default. No need to go into advanced, and we'll simply click create. So that way we've created the storage container, which will later be able to access from our virtual machine. So next, we can actually connect to the VM. So I'm going to go back here and go to my virtual machines. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to click connect. I'm going to choose RDP, and we're going to connect via our public IP address on port 3389. So I'll click download RDP file, and that's downloaded to my computer. So now I can click on this RDP file and I can log in with the credentials I created when setting up this VM. And here we are connecting to the VM. Okay, privacy settings, I'm just going to disable everything. Microsoft probably knows enough about me by now. And here we are in the desktop of our new VM. So one thing you might want to do at this point is set up automatic login. Okay, so this will allow the machine to automatically log us in as administrator when it starts up, which is really useful because then we can connect to this machine directly from Moonlight. So to do this, you'll want to go to the search bar here and type regedit, which is the registry editor. And then you'll want to go to HKey local machine, software, Microsoft, Windows NT, which is here, current version, and then go to Win Logon. Okay, now we'll need to right click here and click new string value and set this to default username exactly as shown. Then double click on it and set the value to the username you created. Now we'll repeat this process, creating a new string value called default password, and we'll double click on it and type in the password here. Now again guys, this is obviously a very bad idea when it comes to security. We're just doing this is a gaming server, so no harm, no foul. Now we'll create another string value called auto admin login. Double click on it and set its value to 1. So we're almost done. Now we'll need to go to another location. So we need to go to HKey local machine, software, policies, Microsoft Windows. So from here you'll need to right click and select new key and call it personalization with a Z. Okay, then inside personalization we'll say new D word 32-bit value and set it to no lock screen. Then double click on it and give it a value of 1. Okay, so that should have now set up automatic login. So at this point, we can go ahead and start the Moonlight setup process. So I'm here on the Cloud Game Stream GitHub page of Acceleration 3. There's a link down in the video description. And this extremely handy script will do most of this stuff for us. So I'm just gonna copy the installation command from here and then open up Windows PowerShell. Now the problem is that if we try to run this script whilst we are logged in using Microsoft RDP, we will get an error, okay? Because that will conflict with the remote desktop solution that we're trying to install. So what we need to do is install some other remote desktop solution. And the recommended one is AnyDesk. So I'm gonna go to anydesk.com and I'm going to download it and I'm going to open the installation. So what we need to do here is decline this and click install AnyDesk on this device. I don't need the printer, so I always unselect that and click accept and install. Okay, so now you'll want to set a password, enable unattended access and type a password here. And back in the welcome page, you'll want to click set an alias. So this lets you give your machine a name. So I'm just gonna call it Tech Guru Gaming in my case, and I'll click register. Okay. So our machine is now set up in such a way that we can connect to it from AnyDesk. So I'm gonna close everything and now click start, shutdown, and disconnect. And this disconnects our RDP session. Okay, so now I can open AnyDesk from my machine here. And I'll type Tech Guru Gaming at AD. And I'll type in my password. So, okay, so now we can log in and we should get back to the desktop of our VM, as you can see here. Okay, so now that we're connected through AnyDesk, we can resume the setup process for Moonlight. So again, I'm gonna go to github.com/acceleration3 cloud game stream and copy the command. I will open PowerShell and I'll paste the command here. Now for the execution policy change, I'm gonna say A, which is yes to all. And I'll just follow the setup procedure. So do you want to install VB cable? Yes, that's for audio. You also need to install the NVIDIA grid drivers. Now you may remember that whilst setting up this machine, we actually already installed the NVIDIA drivers. However, those will not enable game streaming. Okay, so we need to install the version that comes with this script, which unfortunately is a bit older at this point, but maybe we'll see an update sometime soon. So now we can just let this script do its thing. Okay, so at some point you will get an error that the session has ended, but that's only due to the installation process. So we can actually go back to the machine. Okay. And the machine has restarted, and again we get the execution policy change question. We'll press A, and as you can see, it says the script will now continue from where it left off. So what happened is that there was a restart after the driver installed. So we'll press enter. Now this may cause the connection to freeze, since this will start patching GeForce Experience. But if that happens, don't worry, simply disconnect from it, go back to AnyDesk, and reconnect again. Okay, so as you can see, there was an error here related to setting the EDID for the graphics card, but you can actually safely ignore that, since that's what I did the first time and it worked just fine. So it says, would you like to restart now? Sure. And we'll let the machine restart. Of course, your AnyDesk connection will be interrupted. Okay, so let's connect back to the machine. Okay, so at this point we should be able to enable the streaming from GeForce Experience. So I'm going to double click on the icon here on the desktop, click get started, and you will need to log in. Okay, so I've logged in. So now what we'll do is click on settings, shield, and enable game stream. Okay, so that should have enabled NVIDIA game stream, which we can use with Moonlight. So next, what I like to do is actually allow the entire desktop to be streamed via game stream. So to do that, I'll click add from down here, and then I'll go to Windows System32, which is here, and I will find mstse.exe, and I'll click open. So just by having that executable there, we're telling NVIDIA Game Stream that we want to be able to stream the entire desktop. So now we can connect to this machine from Moonlight. So I'm going to open the Moonlight client on my computer. And I'm going to remove this guy, that's my previous test. So I'll click on the add icon and I'll type in the IP address of this machine, which as you can see conveniently is still here. So 51.144.81.53. Okay, so I'll double click on it and it says to enter a code, which in my case is 4785, which I will enter here. Okay, so now they should be connected. You can see that the padlock icon has gone from Moonlight. So I can close my AnyDesk session and I can connect straight from Moonlight. And here we are connected to the machine via Moonlight. Now, one thing you'll want to do is to change the default resolution. In my case, let's see, this is monitor 2, so I'm going to change it to 1080p. Okay, keep changes. Of course, nothing's stopping you from gaming at 4K or whatever other resolution you want, but I find 1080p a good compromise between quality and speed. So now you'll start want to downloading games. I'm going to download Steam, and as usual on this channel, I will proceed to installing Doom Eternal. But don't skip, because there is one little thing we need to do with Steam to tell it to install games on the temporary disk. So I'm going to go ahead and install Steam. Now, what we want to do in Steam is change the default game library location. So if we look at the file explorer on this machine, you'll notice that there are two drives. There's our HDD, where our operating system and software is installed, and then there's this drive, temporary storage, and you even get a warning that anything you put on this disk will be lost. Now, this is where we actually want to install our games. It's a very, very fast drive, and we won't be losing data thanks to the storage container we created earlier. So from Steam, go to Settings, then click Downloads, then click Steam Library Folders. And as you can see, there's that default one there. We're going to add another library folder, and we're going to choose our second drive. So I'm going to choose D: here, create a new folder in here called Steam Library, and select it. So our Steam library is going to be in D:/Steam Library. And what I want to do is right click on this and say Make Default Folder. So as you can see now, games will by default be installed on D:. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can go ahead and install our games. And of course, this being Tech Guru, I'm going to install Doom Eternal. So I'm going to install it here. As you can see, it will install in the right place. Next, agree, and I'll just wait for this game to be installed. Okay, so Doom Eternal has downloaded. Let's go ahead and give it a quick test. Okay, so the game is running. Let's go ahead and take a look at the settings. We'll go to the video tab here, and as you can see, it's running at 1920 by 1080, and all of the settings are at Ultra Nightmare except motion blur, which is on Ultra. So let's go ahead and play a game here just to make sure everything's working okay. And as usual, I'll choose Exaltia. And notice how quickly the level is loading in. That temporary disk, which is part of our Azure VM, is actually very, very fast, and it's already done. And here we are, as usual, in Doom Eternal. Now I'll give you the same note as always. Any stuttering that you're seeing here, I didn't see when I was playing. It's just that whenever something 3D is going on my laptop starts to die a slow and painful death. That being said, hopefully you're getting an idea that this is very smooth to me. I'm playing on easy here, I think, but again, that's just to keep things simple and quick. And I mean, this is not really what we're testing here. I mean, Moonlight is Moonlight, regardless of whether you're using AWS or Azure. I will note, however, that I do have a slight disadvantage on Azure because the servers which have the NV6 instance type are not as close to me as the ones that AWS has. In fact, this is why I held off from making this video for so long, because previously these instance types were only available in the US. Anyway, so I'll just keep playing this level just to finish this part here. And I managed to make him eat the grenade, and there we go. So we'll just dispatch with these last remaining monsters and imps here. And oh right, this one here too. And now we should see this door opening. Yeah, there we go. By now, I'm pretty sure everybody knows this level extremely well. And the finale. Okay, so Doom Eternal seems to be working fine, and so is our streaming performance. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and quit Doom Eternal here. So you've played your game, you've killed your demons or whatever. Now, what do you do before you shut down the machine? So, as I pointed out earlier, we've placed our Steam library on the D drive. So, if we go here to this PC and go to D:, you'll see our Steam library there. And inside the Steam apps folder, in the common folder, you'll see that's where Doom Eternal is. Now, if we shut down the machine at this point, the D drive will be wiped, and we'd have to stay installing the game all over again. And this is where the Azure File Explorer comes in. So I'm going to open a browser and search for the Azure File Explorer or Storage Explorer, I think. Yeah, Storage Explorer. And it is in Dutch here. Since this server is in the Netherlands, I'll just switch to English. Okay, so we should find this link here and download the Storage Explorer for Windows. I should also point out that this is available for macOS and Linux as well, as you can see from here. Right, so we'll go ahead and run the downloaded file. Install for me. We don't need to install for all users. And this is a very basic next finish kind of installation. Now, in the meantime, we're going to log into the Azure portal again, since we'll need to copy a key for our storage account from the portal. So I'll go ahead and sign in here. And here we are. So from here, what we need to do is we need to go to Storage Accounts and then click on the account we created earlier. And if we go to Access Keys, you can see that there are two keys. I'm going to click on the Show Keys button, and I'll need to copy the connection string of one of the keys. I'm copying the string for key 1 here. Okay, in the meantime, Storage Explorer has installed. So let's go ahead and run it. And what we'll do is we'll use that connection string to connect to our storage location. Okay, so once the File Explorer opens, we'll click on Storage Account or Service. Leave the default connection string, click Next, and we'll paste the string we copied from the Azure portal. And as you can see, that will automatically set the display name as well. Next, and yeah, connect. And as you can see, our Tech Guru Video Discs account is being shown. And we'll click on it, and that should show the contents of that account. And what we'll want to do is go to Blob Containers, and there it is, Tech Guru Rig Games, which is where we are going to store our library. So now all we need to do is click the Upload button, browse to our Steam library, and upload here. So we'll click Upload, Upload Folder, and we'll choose this PC, D:, and the Steam library. And we'll click Select Folder. And then we will make sure that the blob type is block blob, and we'll click Upload. And this should start the upload, which proceeds at a very quick pace. You should note that you only need this command when you install a new game. If you've just played and now want to shut down, you don't need to do this at all. Now, this is a very large folder. As you can see, the Steam library is 70 gigs, so you'd think it would take forever, but it doesn't. In fact, it will be ready in about 2 minutes. It's a very quick transfer because of the high bandwidth that this machine has, as well as the fact that we're transferring from Azure to Azure. Okay, so let's just wait for this download to complete. Okay, so our game data has been uploaded. It took less than 2 minutes in my case for a 70 gig folder. And in fact, as you can see there, the 2-minute mark has just elapsed now. So now that our game data has been uploaded, we can go ahead and close Storage Explorer. And assuming we're done gaming, we can shut down this machine, which obviously brings us back to our computer. Now, what you want to do from here is go to the Virtual Machines tab. And as you can see right now, the status is running. And eventually, when this machine has shut down, that status will switch to stopped. As you can see, the status has switched to stopped. Now, it's very important, so that you don't incur any additional charges, that you stop the machine via the Azure portal itself. This doesn't just stop the machine, it deallocates it. So we'll click stop here and we'll say yes. And at this point you can log out, but I'm just gonna stay here a while to show you what it should look like once you've stopped it from the portal. Okay, so as you can see, it's now saying stopped, deallocated, which means we're not charged for the VM being allocated or reserved to us. So make sure you always do that when you're done using your machine. Now, the next time you want to game, all you need to do is select this VM and start it up again, and then download the game library. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll start the machine. Now, since we gave this machine a static IP, I should be able to open the Moonlight client here, and eventually this machine will be available for me to connect to it. Okay, so the rig seems to have started up, so we'll go ahead and connect to it, and once again I'll connect to the desktop. Okay, so here we are back in our gaming rig. Now obviously if we go to the D drive, we should see that it's basically fresh. The contents of the drive should have been erased. So as you can see, there's nothing here. This is basically just like a new machine. But not to worry, we did take our backup. So all we need to do is go here and open Azure Storage Explorer. Okay, so once we're here, we'll click on Storage Accounts, go back to our storage account. We'll click on Blob Containers, and there it is, Tekuru Rig Games. So now all we need to do is, as you can see, there's the Steam library there. We select it, and then we click Download. And I'm going to place it in the D drive where it was before. So I'll go here, temporary storage, and select folder. And the download will begin. So as you can see, the download has started. And this is going to be very fast. But in the meantime, notice there at the bottom right, it says copy AZ, copy command to clipboard. If you want to automate this download process later, you'll need to click that. In fact, I've clicked it, and I'm going to go ahead and paste the copied command into Notepad, as you can see here. So as you can see, the download is now complete. Ironically, the network of this machine is so fast that it's actually our mechanical hard disk that is the bottleneck rather than the network itself. So if you want this to be even faster, you can use an SSD, but obviously that will slightly increase costs. Anyway, so now that the download is complete, we can close the Storage Explorer, and we should be able to open Steam, and we'll go to the library here, and we should see Doom Eternal. Now, just in case you don't, as you can see here, it's not saying that it's installed. That's because we restored the library whilst Steam was running. So what we can do is exit Steam and then run Steam again, and when it reloads, we should be able to see the games in our library. So here we are back in Steam, and now in my library, yeah, there it is. As you can see, Doom Eternal has been detected, and we can go ahead and play it. Okay, So that's that. Now, as you can see, the command that we copied earlier is here in Notepad, and we can use this to create a batch file, which we will then set to run whenever the machine logs in. And that way, by the time we connect to the machine, the download would be almost ready. Now, in order to do this, as you can see here at the beginning, we are using this AZ copy command, which we need to download. So I'm going to open up a browser and search for the AZ copy command, which is provided by Microsoft. So we'll click on this link here, and we'll download the Windows 64-bit version. Now, when we open it, as you can see, there's no installer, it's simply a utility. So place it wherever you want. To keep my life simple, I'm going to place it directly in the C drive, and we'll paste it here. You can also add it wherever else you want, and also add it as in your system's path. Right, so now we'll go back to the command and we'll make some changes. So the first thing we'll do is we will remove this / from here and add // which is where our command is. And we'll also want to find the overwrite parameter, which is there. Yep. As you can see right now, it's set to prompt. We're going to change that to true, since there's nothing to overwrite anyway, and we want this script to be non-interactive. Now, one thing you need to do is you need to look at this part here following the $SV, and anywhere that there's a % symbol, you need to replace it with a $%, in effect escaping it. That is required when we're running commands with a % symbol on the command line. So we can click Edit, Replace, find the % symbol and replace it with a $% symbol and click Replace All. And you can see here that everywhere that there was a % symbol before, we now have a $1. Another thing you'll need to do is to specify the location where the files will be downloaded. So as you can see, it says D: here. I'm going to specify D: /Steam library in my case. Now make sure you do not add a trailing slash. Another thing you'll want to do is go to the download location and add an asterisk after the slash following the name of your folder, which tells the command to download everything in the Steam library folder. Now this next thing is the last we need to do. It's a bit weird, but what we need to do is get all the options starting from overwrite equals true and move them to the start of the command. Strictly speaking, you shouldn't need this, but I found that unless I do it, the command doesn't work. So we'll add it right after the copy keyword, and we'll paste it here. And another thing I found I needed to do was to get this recursive part of the command and move it to be the first option after the copy subcommand, like so. Okay, so now we're done with the file and we can go ahead and save it. Now what I need to do is save this file as a batch file. To do that, I'll click File, Save As. I'm going to place it in my Documents folder, why not? From Save As type, I'll choose All Files, and in quotation marks, I'll name the file whatever. I'm going to call it downloadgames.bat and close quotation marks and click Save. So that saves it as a batch file that we can run later. Next, we need to log in with AZ copy. So what I'm going to do is open the command prompt, type cmd here in the search bar, and I will execute the AZ copy command. So C:/AZ, AZ copy, not AZ login. And as you can see, options come up showing what I can do. So what I want to do is AZ copy login, and I need to specify a tenant ID. Now you can get the tenant ID from the Azure portal. And we'll go to Azure Active Directory. And you'll see there under tenant information is our tenant ID. So we'll copy that to our clipboard, go back to the command prompt, and add the command line option -- tenant dash ID space, and then paste the ID we just copied. And it says go to microsoft.com/device login and enter this code. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So we'll copy the URL and go to our browser. And we'll go to that URL. And now we can copy the code. Obviously yours will be different. And we'll paste it here. And next. And we'll choose our account. And it says we can now close this window. Okay, so let's do that. And as you can see, it now says login succeeded. So we can now test out our batch file. Remember guys, whenever you make a script, it's a good idea to test it first before scheduling it to be automatic. So what I'm going to do is go to my D drive, this PC D drive, and I'm going to delete the Steam library folder. And if my script works properly, it should recreate it once I execute it. So yes, I will delete it. And now we'll go back to the command prompt and we will execute the script. So I'll go to my documents folder. And there it is, downloadgames.bat, and I will run it. And as you can see, the files have now started to download. So this download will be pretty quick, as we saw before in the Azure Storage Explorer. And if we go to this PC, and again we go to dcolon, you'll see that the folder has already been recreated and the content of the folder is being populated at this point. Okay, so now we need to set this script to run automatically when the computer logs in. So from the search bar, we'll search for task scheduler. And interestingly, you'll see there in the window that it's actually our hard disk that is the bottleneck and not the network speed. So this is what I was saying before in the Azure Storage Explorer. But anyway, we'll go back to the task scheduler and we'll click on create basic task. Okay, so we'll give the task a name. I'm gonna call it download library. Next, we'll set this task to start when I log in. Next, the action is start a program. Yes, next, and we'll browse for a program or script, which in my case is in the downloads documents folder at downloadgames.bat. And finish. So that's it basically. Now, by the time your computer has launched, it would already have started the script, and until you connect, basically, most of the download would already be complete, of course, depending on the size of your library. You can see in this window here that the final job status is completed. You might get a warning here, the file name, directory name, or for your enable syntax is incorrect. Don't worry about it, it still works. And when I open Steam, you should see, yep, that Doom Eternal is there, ready for us to play again. I was astonished by how quickly a 70 gig game could be uploaded and downloaded to Blob storage. It's so quick that it makes it very feasible to use the method used in this video. Basically, we're using a very cheap HDD just for the OS install and the saved games, and then we're using the temporary storage, which is extremely cheap and extremely fast to actually host our game. Never has a game loaded that fast on my previous AWS instances. Thanks again to Jimmy Xiao for outlining the steps for the techniques used in this video. And if you download the batch file as I outlined in the video, you'll probably have your game downloaded by the time you connect to the instance and you'll be ready to game. As you can imagine, a lot of research, trial and error goes into making video like these. So if you're interested in cloud gaming or technology in general, please consider liking and subscribing. It really does help the channel a lot and motivate me to keep on going. I really hope you found this video useful and that you give the guide a try. And if you do, let me know of your progress down in the comments below. I'll catch you in the next cloud gaming related video, and until then, as usual, thank you for watching.